Hi, I'm Carina Federico, a partner in the Crowell tax group and one of the leaders of our IRA Inflation Reduction Act group at the firm.
Hi, I'm Starling Marshall. I'm co-chair of the tax practice, and I'm a partner in Crowell & Mooring's tax and litigation group, and I lead the tax controversy practice.
And we're here today to talk about where we predict tax disputes may arise with the IRS over the IRA clean energy provisions. One of the things we're really following is that the Republicans have called out the clean energy tax credits as a potential source of fraud, and an area where they're going to focus their oversight efforts going forward. And we know that the IRS is going to scrutinize these credits. But companies are going to want to continue to take these credits because it's going to be worth the extra compliance due to the richness of some of these credits. So companies are going to want to make sure that they're following the rules and preparing themselves for potential audit.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that companies can take lessons from the previous times that we've done renewable energy tax credits and where the areas of focus have been for the IRS in those past times. For example, in the 1603 case, that was a legislative effort, you'll remember from the early 2010s, where companies could take advantage of a cash grant program that was based on 30% of the basis of certain renewable energy products. However, once companies took those, as we remember, Treasury and the IRS actually tried to claw back some of those as excessive. And I think that the same will happen in the IRA context. There will be areas of dispute, so we can look to those past times where there's been, significant controversy to see where we should focus our energy now.
That's a great point, Starling. Having the right substantiation is definitely going to be key. We've seen this a lot with the research and development credits and other tax credits and incentives where the IRS has really carefully scrutinized R&D claims. On the R&D side, they've also recently released a new form to go along with the stricter reporting requirements. So our experience with R&D credits through audits, litigation, appeals has been that it's really important to start preparing very early to defend against an exam by IRS by maintaining that robust documentation. And as you know, a well-prepared defense to an audit is typically also the best offense.
Right. In addition to sustaining the underlying credits, I think that all of that preparation really helps taxpayers avoid penalties or, additional tax liabilities. And I think the investment in upfront preparation is definitely worth it. As you and I have seen time and again, it costs probably 5 times to 10 times as much money and time to recreate a file than it would have if the taxpayer had just kept the file and, done it in real time as the credit was being claimed.
And I think the IRA credits are also going to present some new challenges for the IRS. So in particular, the prevailing wage and apprenticeship guidelines are something new that the IRS hasn't really dealt with. Those are borrowing off of the Department of Labor requirements, and the IRS is not staffed with folks that are labor experts. So I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge, as well as the domestic content requirements, another thing where it's going to be difficult and complex for the IRS to audit that area. And I think some of these inquiries are going to be very fact intensive and complex. So it's going to require taxpayers to keep record keeping and reporting. I think also the interesting question is what will happen in some of these audits, like the domestic content, where the underlying documents are things that suppliers have, and maybe the actual credit, the person taking the credit doesn't actually keep those documents. How are they going to get those documents? Will they be able to share them with the taxpayer when they're things that the supplier wants to keep confidential? So I think all of that's going to be very interesting on the audit side, and we'll see that develop over the next few years.
Yeah, another point about sort of sharing documents and documents that other parties might need is that there's an interesting issue here, which is the first time that credits like this can be transferred. Well, the buyer is going to also get audited, for the underlying credit. So it's very important if you're a buyer of these credits to make sure that in your contract or in, some other agreement that you keep a careful list of what it is that you're hoping that your seller is maintaining, whether you're getting the documents up front or the seller just promises to share them if necessary, and just being really careful about the diligence before you buy those credits.
And I think a key takeaway here is that also the proposed and final rules from Treasury and IRS are not out yet in all of the areas, so things could change. But one of the things that taxpayers really should be focused on now is making sure they're complying with the regs and guidance as written, and thinking forward to maybe things that might change, and carefully scrutinizing the new provisions as they come out to make sure that they're continuing to follow the guidelines and keep the adequate records. Buyers of these credits who are buying the tax credits that are transferred, they should also be very diligent about conducting due diligence of the credits they're buying, making sure that they have access to what they'll need to defend on audit. Thank you, Starling, for joining me today to discuss the tax controversy implications of the IRA credits.
Thanks for having me, Carina. And of course, people can come to our website or email any one of us about any follow-up questions.